You do have to be brave. And I think if we're saying that this is our goal, then it does give everyone the confidence to be brave and to push themselves and for it to be okay, for it to not work out. Because I think the sort of filtering yourself and being a bit safer, that is arguably more risky because the job of a brand has got to stand out.
A lot of the work you do seems to have quite a heavy conceptual approach to it. The thought behind it seems to be very important. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about that and how you build brands from a thought first?
For us, what we really believe is that the concept's the most important thing because that's really what paints a picture in people's heads. And that's if you can sort of define a really strong concept that can give you rules that lets you build a world, then if you can create that world and have every element adding up to that bigger idea, then the brand as a whole can add up to something greater than the sum of its parts. And I think it's important to, like, when we do create these brands, give them a real strong story to tell so that it's not doesn't just stop at the sort of visual assets. One way we do that is really we're always asking, how can we exaggerate that idea? How can we make it really, really clear with every element? So it's not so much necessarily about the rules, but it's more about giving you a starting point that lets you sort of know what to do and what not to do. And so, like, if we've got a really clear idea about, say, um, a not secret society, like we did for Reveal, then that gives us a sort of rich visual language to tap into. And so we can ask ourselves, is this exaggerating this idea? Is this communicating what we want it to communicate visually and verbally? And that gives us that gives us the direction we need to make creative decisions that's gonna hopefully lead us somewhere really rich, really distinctive, really interesting. And I think sort of the reason we want to, like, exaggerate that idea and have every element adding up to it is because it's really hard to convey that idea. It's got to be simple enough for everyone to understand, but then rich enough to give you that starting point and that direction to help you make your creative decisions.
Or how do you maintain that balance of pushing for this kind of idea that's rich and exciting, but still presenting commercial work to a client with a brief and an objective and a budget, which often sits sort of in opposition, or not so much opposition, more tension with that idea of kind of pushing something so wildly out there?
You do have to be brave. And I think if we're saying that this is our goal, then it does give everyone the confidence to be brave and to push themselves and for it to be okay, for it to not work out. Because I think the sort of filtering yourself and being a bit safer, that is arguably more risky because the job of a brand has got to stand out against everything else in the world. So if you do sort of edit yourself and filter yourself a little bit, you run the risk of blending in with everyone else. And so I think we're just really clear on that goal. And I think, yeah, you do have to be sensible. It's not about being reckless, it's about doing what's appropriate. And I think if you can start with an idea that is appropriate, that is sort of inspired by the needs and the wants and the audience and what's true to that business, then hopefully you'll get somewhere that does make sense, that is still brave but appropriate at the same time.
You said you sort of have this single goal. Can you walk me through how you build that with your clients? Because I'm assuming they don't have like a brief that they bring you where they're like, this is our singular clear goal that we'd like you to build everything around.
We interview everyone. We start with, like, gathering our research, and really it's our brilliant strategy team that really helps us sort of define what that strategy is, what that goal could look like. And um, there is a lot of work to get to that sort of unified single strategy. And that is, as a creative team, that becomes our brief. Really, that becomes the goal that we want to express conceptually, visually, verbally with the world that we create. And that can be summed up in the brand platform and the positioning and the brand idea that we end up with over the course of the strategic process.
When you sort of have done your initial work and now the internal people have to pick it up and almost fly that flag in your absence, can you talk a bit about how you get them to pick up your thinking and run forward with it?
I think that's where like a really clear and strong conceptual approach comes in handy, because if you can use that storytelling to sort of bring those ideas to life in people's minds, then you don't need to convince them, what the rules are and what they need to do, because they'll inherently understand it, in their bones, because they'll have bought into that story. And then in terms of the tools that we give them to bring that brand to life, because of the way we work in the sort of making sure every element is communicating the idea, exaggerating that idea, it means we do give them a kit of parts that means that you can pull the brand apart and put it back together in a million different ways, and it will still feel coherent and consistent in telling that same story, but it gives you a really simple system that can flex for whatever it is they're creating.
You said that you have a storyteller on every single team. Can you talk about how you sort of build story, like literally into the org chart of your company?
We've got a team of writers, and they are just so talented. It really blows me away. And what our head of copy, David, has really sort of taught us is how to use writers as creatives. So for us, when we start a project and it's the creative team working on it, it is writers and designers working very much in tandem, and the writers are really really driving the concept as much, if not more so, than the designers. And I think when we are working this conceptually and we sort of need that concept to drive all of our creative decisions, it's just so important to have that really baked in. They're not there to fill in where Lorem Ipsum wants that. They're really sort of driving the creative. The way we sort of present our work, I guess, could feel a bit more like a storyboard for a film you're going to make. And so the writer would write that story but spread it up across several pages, and then the designers will contribute to that. It'll be very much back and forth, and then bringing those words to life visually. And so that's how we work like that. So it is sort of like a collection of shorter form writing that adds up to something bigger.
Hello YouTube, I'm Ross Drakes. I'm the founder of Nicework, and thank you so much for your time at watching this video. If you're seeing me, it means you made it all the way to the end, so we've at least done something right. If you enjoyed this, we'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up. It really helps the channel. And I think more important than that is if you know someone who might need to hear this, if you think someone out there who needs this message in their life, please spread the link, because it makes a huge difference to the world, and it allows us to fulfill our message of making sure that there are no more bad brands in the world. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next video.